Guilt, hallucinations, and rising suspicion take hold of the residents of Coronation Street next week. Sam Blakeman's mental health takes a frightening and heartbreaking turn as his hallucination of Roy Cropper clashes with reality inside the cafe. With Nick Tilsley, Leanne and Toya Battersby, and Roy's niece Nina Lucas all urging him to open up, Carla Connor Swain appears to be the one who uncovers what is really happening. The question remains whether anyone can truly help Sam. Elsewhere, David Platt tries to make amends with his wife Shona. Maria Connor feels let down by Gary Windass while Kit Green closes in on him, and Megan Walsh sets a trap for Will Driscoll. Tyrone Dobbs' attempt to hide where he was on the night of Theo Silverton's murder ends up having serious consequences for Summer Spellman. As his remorse grows stronger each day, he finally confides in Fizz Dobbs about the secret he has been keeping. Her reaction is yet to be seen. Let's take a closer look. Friday, June 12th, double episode. Sam tries to approach Will while still under the influence of his Roy hallucination, but the pressure of the voice in his head becomes overwhelming. He rushes to the cafe where things spiral out of control as his imagined version of Roy clashes with the real one. With Nick, Toya, Leanne, and Nina all begging him to open up, Sam instead bolts once more. Carla briefly manages to reach him later and tells Nick she believes Sam may be suffering from psychosis. Elsewhere, Kit informs Lisa Connor Swain that Gary remains his main suspect, while Maria is left waiting in speed doll after being stood up. When Gary later arrives to apologize, Kit and Lisa also turn up, asking Maria to go over her statement again. Wednesday, June 10th. Will tells Hope he is meeting an old running friend from his days in Hull, but he is stunned when Megan appears at the arranged location instead. Maria grows increasingly uneasy as Gary's behavior since the night of Theo's murder makes her question their relationship. At the same time, Kit becomes more conflicted, now convinced Summer may not be responsible. Their paths cross as Kit makes it clear Gary remains his main suspect. Elsewhere, Roy is confused when Sam mentions the previous day's incident involving Will. Meanwhile, Jody joins the Platt family for Lily's celebration meal after she wins Player of the Year. Thursday, June 11th, no episode. No Coronation Street again, and viewers are left just as frustrated as Betsy Swain. Meanwhile, Debbie Webster is pleasantly surprised when Christina Boyd, Glenda Shuttleworth, and Sally Metcalf arrange a trip to Spain for her. Later, Ronnie Bailey gathers them at the Rovers with a plan of his own. Sunday, June 7th, Kit intensifies his pursuit of Gary, convinced he is hiding key information about Theo's murder. Meanwhile, Todd Grimshaw hurries to the hospital after receiving alarming news that Summer has been taken ill. He is devastated when she admits she deliberately tampered with her insulin pump in an attempt to get out of prison for a while. David struggles when he cannot locate Harper's 5-month milestone card, which ruins the planned photo session with Shona. He becomes increasingly certain that Jody Ramsey is responsible for its disappearance. Elsewhere, after a visit from a social worker, Daniel Osborne becomes convinced he knows who contacted them. Hope Dobbs encourages Will to regain control after he considers giving up athletics, while Sam continues to suffer as his condition worsens. Monday, June 8th, with his guilt deepening after Carl Webster admits he is still experiencing flashbacks from the night of his injury, Tyrone finally confesses everything to Fizz. He admits he did see Summer on the night of Theo Silverton's murder and explains how he accidentally dropped a car onto Carl. He also reveals there is footage of the incident. Shocked, Fizz insists he immediately hand over his phone. Hoping to make amends, David Platt goes all out to win back Shona's trust, treating her to a romantic dinner and presenting a gift box filled with keepsakes from Harper's pregnancy, including ultrasound images, her hospital wristband, and a tiny onesie for when she comes home. Meanwhile, Sam continues to struggle as he hallucinates Roy, urging him to get rid of Will permanently. When he refuses, the vision turns its back on him. Elsewhere, Asha, Nina, and Todd visit a devastated Summer in hospital. Tuesday, June 9th, no episode. No episode of Coronation Street airs on Tuesday, leaving viewers as frustrated as Bernie Winter. Coronation Street viewers have been demanding answers after Jody Ramsey's latest actions came to light, with questions growing over whether Daniel Osborne is being dismissed because of his increasingly fragile mental state in the ITV soap. Daniel has been in turmoil since uncovering that his partner, Megan Walsh, had been grooming teenager Will Driscoll, whom she previously coached in Hull before they all relocated to Weatherfield last year. At first, Daniel refused to believe the accusations and continued to defend Megan, despite ongoing tension involving Will. However, he has since been forced to accept the truth, leaving him deeply shaken. Struggling to cope, Daniel decided he needed space and pretended to leave Weatherfield for a short break in the Lake District, leaving his son Bertie with Ken Barlow. But his cover story quickly fell apart when Jody, acting suspiciously, used a stolen spare key taken from Ken to let herself into Daniel's flat, unaware that he was actually still inside. She managed to talk Daniel into letting her stay, quickly making herself at home in his flat. However, it didn't take long before Jody slipped back into manipulative behavior. Once Daniel told her she would need to leave now that his family knew he had returned and he intended to have Bertie living with him again, she began quietly harassing and undermining him behind the scenes. Meanwhile, Daniel became the target of online abuse from an account known as Truth Teller. Social media users began accusing him of being involved in Megan's actions, suggesting he was just as guilty as she was. The online abuse takes a heavy toll on Daniel, worsening his already fragile mental state. As a result, he begins lashing out at those closest to him, including his loved ones and his students, and even Megan when she returns awkwardly to the street in Monday's episode. After breaking down upon his return to school in Tuesday's episode, Daniel eventually uncovers the truth. Jody makes a slip by mentioning something about Daniel meeting his online troll, information that only he and the account holder would know. Realizing what this means, Daniel confronts her directly. She initially denies any involvement, but under pressure from an emotional Daniel, she finally admits she was behind the trolling. Struggling to cope, Daniel later ends up drunk in the pub where Adam Barlow attempts to support him. However, things escalate when Jody arrives on the scene. In a heated outburst, Daniel publicly exposes her as the person behind the online trolling account. Jody flatly denies any involvement, insisting there is no proof against her. As she turns on the waterworks and plays the victim, she addresses the other customers, saying, "I'm sorry, everyone, for ruining your afternoon." He's clearly very stressed. "I just can't deal with this," she says before leaving the pub in tears. Jody then heads to number 8, where she deceives her sister, Shona Platt, into letting her stay the night. This comes after she had earlier visited the house and begun manipulating Shona's husband, David, sowing doubt about his memory of events from the night of Lisa and Carla Connor Swain's wedding and Theo Silverton's murder, insisting that his version of what happened may not be accurate.